I want to talk about something very interesting, and this is Putin and Ukraine and the West generally. So I was having a very interesting, very heated conversation about this issue with certain friend of mine, and not only him but other people that have talked about this issue before, and they're like, Putin's gonna win this war. That's the first thing they say. That Putin is a strong man, he's powerful, he has everything it takes to ensure that he fight against the US, he fight against Germany and all those, and that collective, West, right? They believe that Putin has great weapons, right? He has nukes, he has weapons of mass destruction that if he can just drop in Las Vegas, the entire US can just get, extinct within minutes, right? And so this is why I wanted to have this podcast, because I think many people have misguided information and they have misguided thinking on this issue. First of all, I believe that Russia can never win this war on Ukraine. That's number one. Number two, I think that Russia, if they can attempt to go into war with the United States and its allies, that is Germany, UK, France, and all of these other countries, then they're gonna lose it all. So one of the things that I think brings confusion and maybe brings confidence to these pro-Russia guys, that if Russia goes to war, they can win, is on the issue of China. So many of them think that China can actually get into this war and support Russia and support Putin to be able to fight against the West and especially US to be able to win this war. I think that's ridiculous. That can never happen with China. First of all, China are selfish guys. They look things keenly. They're very strategic, and they're always very thoughtful before they get into war, right? These people believe that everything that does not accrue to them is wrong, is useless, should not be given any attention, should not be prioritized whatsoever. They always, that's why right now when you see those guys have been so much hesitant at supporting Russia when it comes to this war with Ukraine. They're very, very in the middle. Like, they don't want to, like, oh guys, we don't like US about this. They're always like, okay guys, we are okay with everybody. And that's why you see they still have trade with Russia and they still have latitudes with the US. It's not like they can't even impose sanctions against Russia, because they know that when they fight against Russia, that is going to be against the interest. And the interest is that they want to still have trade with Russia. They cannot never fight against US because, of course, they still have trade interest with the US. So these guys, they are just enemy politically, but there's far much greater interest to protect than just fight with Russia and things like that. So in this podcast, I'm going to discuss why I think Russia can never win this war and why I think it would be a bad idea if Putin will actually get into war with these guys, and why I think like Putin's Putin issues during the war is always just like a bluff. This guy is not able to find the war. He's not able to even fight against his weakling, right? His weak opponent, Ukraine. Ukraine is a weak opponent. I think if he was such much strong, he would have annexed Ukraine, and right now Ukraine would be voting. The last election, Ukraine would have voted under the Russian flag. So listen, first of all, if you claim to be strong as Putin, if you claim that you have everything that you have weapons that you have strong military by, why the hell haven't you taken Ukraine? Because Ukraine is still, first of all, Ukraine is just one of the many states, small states that were part of Soviet Union during the Cold War. And they haven't developed that much compared to Russia, right? I think it would be so much easy if you were that strong to be able to annex them and to be able to just get in the war and fight them over. You haven't done that. Putin hasn't done that, right? And why? Why haven't they done that? First, is because it's not true that Russia is that strong as they claim to be. It's not that true as media claims to be. Of course, this guy is a strong man, and of course, I have to acknowledge that this guy is famous, right? Because even in the U.S. politics, you could see everybody talking about him. Mainstream media talks about this guy. Independent podcasters talk about this guy. Every newspaper talks about this guy. So of course, there's a way he has put himself forward. There's a way he has used propaganda to be able to sell him to his enemies, to be able to sell him to even his people, and this has made people believe that this guy is strong. So there's quite a number of factors you need to understand. First, this guy is not strong. Secondly, do you know that the Russian economy is equal to the economy of California? That's about $1.2 trillion thereabout, right? So I'm like, God, can you threaten to go into a war with a country that your economy is equal to one of its states? Oh my God, California, just California, and US has more than 50 states. I think more than 49 states. I think there are 50 states thereabout. And you're like, you can fight this guy. For you to win the war, you must have resources, right? You must have experience. Of course, we do know that Russia has had experiences up to I think up to the Second World War, right? The last time Russia participated in the war was the last World War, right? The Second World War, and the one that they did in Afghanistan, and that was a small war. You can never say that was a great war. And so the thing is, they don't have that. Of course, they have experience of war, but there's been a large inter period, right? Inter period between those wars that they've been involved. So I can't. The experience is not regular, right? Compared to the US, this guy, first of all, they have quite a amount of resources. They have the outpost, military outposts across the world. They have many, I think more than 800 military bases across the world, right? Compared to China's, which only have one outside of China, and Russia, I don't know how many they have. They don't have any, right? But secondly, you have to understand that if Russia was that powerful right now, they will Ukraine will be under the Russian flag. In fact, the last election that was held in Russia, which I think was this month in March, Ukrainians will have voted in Russia, but that hasn't happened. Of course, people have been arguing that the reason why they have not won against Ukraine is because US is part, US is part of parcel of this thing, and that US has been supporting Ukraine. Of course, so first, you're a country that claims to be powerful than even the US. You're a country that claims to be powerful more than even Europe itself. You're a country that claims that it can stand up against the collective West in general and fight against them, and repress NATO out of their borders, repress NATO out of their neighborhood. You're a country that claims so. So first of all, if you are a president of a nation who is going to war, there's a lot of things that you're thinking. Your first one is that, can I enable to fight this war? Can I fight this war? And that means that, do I have the money to be able to fight this war? So first of all, do I have the money? And not only do I have the money, do I have enough resources compared to my enemies, compared to NATO, compared to US, compared to all the collective West? Do I have the money more than them? If when it comes to sustaining war, can I sustain the war to be able to fight this war to the latter? These are the questions that we ask, and that is why I've added Putin in the list of irrational leaders that I know. One of the first the topmost irrational leader that I know is Kim Jong Un, because of course Kim Jong Un, first of all, they are very poor, they have nothing, and so of course he uses few resources that he has to make weapons to be able to enter into a negotiating table with something. He knows very well. He have understood, or that dynasty have understood the art of negotiation. They know that you can never get into a negotiation when you don't have anything to negotiate with. And that's what happens in life. Of course, when you're going to talk with somebody, and when you want something from somebody, when you're presenting your case, sorry for that. When you're presenting your case, you have to ensure that you have something that other guy needs. That's what Kim Jong Un does. Not that they are poor. Yes, of course they can start a war, but they can never sustain that war. So I think, and that is why I think Putin, because he has so much hatred, he has so much bad feelings, bad attitudes against the US. I think it's because of that. He knows very well that he cannot sustain the war against the US, that he cannot sustain the war against the collective West. That is why he can never launch. He can never do that mistake to launch a war in any of these countries, especially in the US. He knows that, yes, he has the weapons, the nukes, everything. But he do know very well that US and the collective West has even more than him, right? It's about understanding your enemy. And I think that's where I see this guy is very smart. He knows that he cannot do that. And because he knows that when he do that, Russia will be extinct in the next 24 hours. Should they try that? You can never do that, right? A country that faces strong enemies such as China, such as Russia, you tell me they don't have all this. They have all these things, and that's why Putin knows. So first of all, I wanted to make things clear in this podcast. I wanted to tell you to know. I wanted to make clear that one, Putin is not as strong as you think. Otherwise, if he was strong, Donetsk and all those other regions that they think they will take, he wanted to annex, would have been under Russia right now. And it's been 2 years, right? It's been 2 years up to now, and I just don't understand how you claim that NATO. This is where I don't agree with guys. So people try to justify why it's okay for Russia attacking Ukraine. You ask them why, and they tell you, NATO is coming closer. Bullshit. It's always like, so first of all, you need to prove to me, is Ukraine an independent nation? Yes. They say yes, it's independent country. So I asked him, do they have independence? Do they have ability? Do they have the right to make their own choices? Do they have the right to, choose their destiny? Do they have the right to choose their fate? And they say, yes. But I'm like, if you're pro that, if you're pro independence, if you're pro choice, if you're pro statehood, why the hell will you say it's okay for Russia to attack this kind of country, to attack Ukraine? We have laws, we have international guidelines, we have international laws which is embedded in the UN Charter that really dictates, that really put it clear that independent countries can be able to tell their fate. They can be able to choose what they want. They can be able to decide what they want. But here a guy is saying that it's okay for Russia to attack because NATO is coming closer to Ukraine. I mean, I don't get that, but what I know is that first, it's not right for any country to be able to be able to attack any other country which is independent, which is recognized by United Nations, because that's against international law. That is insulting another country's territorial dignity. And that is why I think perhaps maybe China has never become clear and said we are supporting Russia in this, because that's just intuitively against international law, and you can never do that. So if you prove to me, or if we know, if it's a public knowledge that Ukraine is a country of its own and it has independence, then they have the right to join NATO. They have the right to join EU. And there's nothing whatsoever that should make any other country to attack them. In fact, then, if Russia attacks Ukraine because of it, then I would think that Russia is insecure. They're afraid of things. They're easy to frighten. They're easy to scare away. And that's what happened right now. And this way, I will always still believe that US is the most powerful country in the world. They're the most powerful country in the world because their smell. If Russia just smell their presence somewhere, they're just like, oh my god, right? I think generally, Putin is not like who is. He can never sustain a war. He doesn't have the money. He doesn't have the money. There's no money at all to sustain this war. Starting a war is something else, and sustaining it is another story. You can start the war, but you cannot finish the story. All right, so you can start the war in California or in Las Vegas or in Washington D.C. But can he sustain the war? He cannot sustain the war because they have no money. Now you talk about allies, man. Come on, Chinese can never support this guy. I'm telling you, because Chinese know that when they support this guy, they're gonna lose the market. To Chinese, what matters is the market. Where can we sell? So if it involves attacking US, which is their market, the hell with you, man. We're not gonna do that. I think that's being rational. And in the end of the day, and that is why, as I've said, that is why China, that's why Russia can never ever tries to attack these guys, because when they attack these guys, they know that Russia is going to be extinct in the next 24 hours. Everybody's worried about this guy because he's so much irrational. Because in the end of the day, politicians care about themselves, right? And that's why you saw Elon Musk was like, he was worried about this guy. He was like, man, this is a threat. But what I know, Russia knows very well, especially Putin knows very well, that they can never sustain this war. And I think perhaps that's why they have not been successful in terms of annexing those regions they want in Ukraine. So tell me what you think about that. But that's what I think.